I know some of you probably would have expected today's video to be the transfer special after what happened in yesterday's video, but circumstances mean it can't be. I mean, being completely honest about it, if it had to be a transfer window, it probably would have had to wait a day until tomorrow because I just wouldn't have had time to record a full transfer special and get it out for today. So we've got the last couple of days of the season. You get to have a look at some of the fringe players, some of the youth players, and more importantly, I get to make a video today and remind you, shirts, they go off sale forever tomorrow. As you watch this, you must place your order by Saturday the 14th of September 2019. If you're watching this after that date, you will never be able to buy a shirt. They're never available again. Much apologies, but we had to put an end date on it, and the company that make them are going out of their way to extend this way beyond when they actually stopped doing the replica shirt business. If you've seen anyone else who's had a Tribe Fire shop, you'll know you can't buy their stuff anymore. So they're doing us a massive favour by doing this one final run. There will be no way to do it from now on. This isn't one of those buy now or you might miss out sales pitch things. This is someone genuinely telling you, after tomorrow, I physically can't get them made anymore. So the link is down in the description if you want to buy one. The good news is, if you've already bought one or don't care, after tomorrow, you'll never have to hear about them again. Hello and welcome to part 209 of It's Coming Home. I'm Kevin. Coming up on today's episode, we have the final two games of the Premier League season. At home against Cardiff, away against Brighton. We've already won the Premier League, and we want to have a look at some players. I've given up on the 4-2-4. The 4-2-4 didn't work against Inter, therefore it doesn't count, it doesn't exist. As you know, we're going into a summer with no money. We're at risk of failing financial fair play for both the Premier League and the Champions League. But the board have given us an extra £700,000 a week to spend on wages. Our board is mental. The good news is, because we've been relatively sensible with transfers over the last few years, this isn't even my fault anymore. If we have a look at the club debts, only £36 million of that debt is from transfers on the Never Never, because we haven't actually done that for a little while. If we have a look, the last player we bought on the Never Never was probably, I mean, we're going back a few years, it was probably Baron, going back 3 years now, and I guess it'll be the players from this summer, the ones that aren't quite fully paid for. So Cirillo, Thor, Baron are probably the three that are waiting for final payments for that final £36 million. And then we have no transfer debt, so all of this other debt is just general club running costs debt, and it all comes down to the fact that we don't have our own ground, and we're stuck at Milton Keynes with a capacity of like less than 30,000. I believe next summer is when we can start making waves towards getting our own ground, which I'd like to think will be significantly bigger than that. But I guess we shall have to see. But with that financial situation as it is, I expect this to be a summer where, I mean, that's not the only reason we're going to be doing what we're doing, but I expect this to be a summer where we move on some of the players who've maybe been established for a little while and really focus on the youngsters that we're going to be seeing today. This is a team that could potentially be the team that starts next season, because they'll be all that's left after we've had our fire sale. Because, I mean, I've never worried that much about finances, but that worries me, because if we fail the Champions League financial fair play, we can't be in the Champions League. We get a 1 season ban from the competition. So we definitely need to fix that because we can't be banned from the competition for a year. Otherwise, we really will never win the Champions League. And I'd like to think this combination of players isn't a bad team. Obviously, there'll be some players who we still add back into it. Zupancic would probably be in for Sloma. Drame would probably be in for Mendes. We'd probably have Thor in for Diarra, maybe, with Mira out on the left wing. Lee would be in for Hervé, probably. But that aside, the bulk of this is next season's team. We've got a lot of the old men down on the bench that we're going to be looking to move on. So let's see how this group of players fares. We have got Powell back in goal. I think I am going to be moving Becker on this summer as well, because we've got Radovic, the wonder kid goalkeeper, as our number 3 keeper, and I think he needs to move up to the bench next year. Becker can move on as well. There you go. We should be winning this game comfortably, no problem at all. Diarra, just like he did last year, has just won the Premier League Young Player of the Month again. I think for Diarra, we definitely need to get Ciriello out of his way, because he is a player who, for the last couple of years now, when he's had his opportunities towards the end of the season, he has been sensational, but then he's not had the opportunities for the rest of the season. So I think Diarra definitely needs to have an old man get out of his way, because it's a lot harder for him to force his way into the team the way Bogarski or Juranovic have, for example. It's a little bit easier for them to force their way in the team because there's two players they can displace. Out on the wings, he's got to get past if there's only one spot, and he's got Ciriello and Mira ahead of him, so he's struggling a little bit to even sit on the bench at times. But I think we need to make it a little bit easier for him to be involved, because he's still showing as a 5-star potential wonder kid. He's still only 20, I think. He's going to be homegrown at club, and he's awesome. So we need to be having him, at the very least, on the bench every game next year. He needs to be first reserve for his position. He needs to play 20 or 30 games. Not necessarily start 20 or 30 games, but he needs to play a part in 20 or 30 games next year. No more of this 10 games, and they're all at the end of the season while the real players are focusing on the Champions League. No more of that nonsense. Worryingly, this combination of players isn't tearing Cardiff apart, and Cardiff are rock bottom of the Premier League and already relegated. They were relegated almost as early as we won the league. All three of them, Bristol City, Preston and Cardiff, have been terrible. 16 points between Bristol City and Brighton. Just shows just how poor the bottom three have been in the Premier League this year. It's a weird Premier League. We've got one team massively better than everyone else, 3 teams massively worse than everyone else, and then 16 teams. There's not a huge difference between them. I imagine the other 16, any of them can beat anyone else. And what we might be seeing here is bottom of the league are going to beat us, because they've now drawn level. Our heads have gone. Ever since what happened at Inter, our heads are well and truly gone, which is weird, because it wasn't this combination of players that bottled it against Inter. But we drew in our derby game against Arsenal, our rivals match, whatever you want to call it. I mean, there needs to be a fancy name for it, but why am I blurry? If I've been blurry for the whole episode up until this point, I apologise that you haven't been able to see my beautiful face in full high definition. But there you go. I've fixed it now. Don't I look handsome today? Yes, I know I need to trim the beard a little bit, particularly these areas. You couldn't see that before. Now you can. There's Diarra playing Mendes in. Mendes from range. What a goal from Mendes. Mendes is another one who's been a bit of a forgotten man, mainly because Mendes had that fantastic start to the season a few years ago. It was when we sold Manu. We sold Manu to make room for Mendes. Mendes took that opportunity, and then we signed Drame over the top of him, and he kind of got pushed back down the pecking order again and hasn't really played as much since. And I know there's been a few negative comments about Mendes and how we shouldn't really focus on him. He is 22 now, but can I just point out, he was really good that season. I mean, I think he's a good player. Maybe, I don't know, maybe not Costa quality, but who is? Drame isn't either, I don't think. And Mendes, I think, has been more consistent than Drame has been. So maybe Mendes jumps over Drame. Maybe we bring in a defensive midfielder again. When we played against Arsenal, they played both Ricardo and Jimenez in their team, and it was just a little reminder that we did used to have some fantastic defensive midfielders. In addition to those two, we obviously had Alves for a while. We had Thompson, who went to Manchester United. We've had probably 300 or 400 million pounds worth of Champions League quality defensive midfielder over the years, and there's none of that at the club now. Bogarski's the closest we've got to it, and maybe for those big Champions League games, what we need is a bruiser in midfield to kick people. And we are going to look at another youngster now, Catalin Babaru, who's a Romanian centre-back who we brought in a couple of years ago. Relatively cheap, but we're going to give him his Premier League debut now. He can come on for Juranovic. We've also got Goff coming on for Flager. John Goff is a man that I really don't know what to do about, because he is 30, but he is one of football's global superstars, or whatever the official term for it is in game. He sells a lot of shirts. He's a World Cup winner. He's my best buddy. I want him to be my assistant manager when he retires. But he's an old man. Look at that from Mendes. I tell you what, Mendes is having a good game. I know it's only against Cardiff, but it's not as if he's had oodles of opportunities. And you would think in this season where Costa has been injury ravaged, I probably should have given Mendes more of a chance, because we went with Drame, and when it wasn't Drame, we went with two up top. We've very rarely even had Mendes on the bench, because I was so convinced I was moving towards a 4-2-4. I've now backtracked on that, and suddenly Mendes is back in the discussion again and looking awesome. Right, let's bring Augusto on that left wing. Give him 10 minutes playing out wide, because again, if we're abandoning the 4-2-4, we've got four very, very good strikers. Augusto is one of them. We've obviously got Ben Young knocking around as well. Perhaps Young is someone who we need to move on. I know I talked about having him on the bench forever, but that was before Augusto existed, and Augusto can do a lot of the things that Young can do. Because realistically, I don't ever bring Young on as an attacking midfielder. I don't ever bring him on the right-hand side, because we've always got Goff or Flager on the bench, depending on who's not playing. And if I was to bring him on for the attacking midfielder, I'd stick him up front anyway. So he's only really playing as a striker or a left winger, and Augusto can play as a striker and a left winger, and he's younger and better at it. So if we're trying to sort out the finances, is there an argument Ben Young moves on? We're going to gut this team this summer. I mean, let's say I sell the 5 or 6 players I'm talking of selling, bring in £400 million. We're not going to get more than maybe 80 million to spend, I wouldn't have thought. Clear the debts, we'll have 80 million to spend. But 80 million is then obviously a world-class player. What do we need? I know people are going to say goalkeeper. I promise you they don't exist. We bought the best goalkeeper. We already had the best goalkeeper in the world according to the actual award in the shape of Powell. We went out and bought the highest rated goalkeeper on my scouting reports in the shape of Beckhardt. We've got the 2 best goalkeepers in the world. We can't upgrade that. There just aren't any that are any good. But what position could we really... Do we go out and buy a world-class defensive midfielder and change the system up? Or do we go out and buy a world-class attacking midfielder to replace Costa and be that creative spark behind the likes of Mira and Thor and Flager and whoever is going to be in our attack? Do we go out and get a proper central midfielder to partner Zupancic, forget about focusing on youth, go and buy a 25-year-old with 40 caps who's going to be awesome in there and he's already the finished article? Let me know down in the comments what you'd do if you came into some money at home. But first, we'll play the final game of the season. Just a couple of changes for this final game of the season then. Augusto comes in on the left wing because Diarra managed to pick up an injury, just as I was talking about how awesome he is. He's picked up a knot, so we'll start Augusto out on that left wing where we brought him on in the last game. And we're also going to put Radovic in goal. This is the guy who I was just talking about as the chap who needs to sit on our bench next year, because he looks like he's going to be awesome. So he might be the answer. 5-star potential. He ain't getting anywhere near that. No goalkeepers ever do in this save. But you never know. He might. And here's his Premier League debut. Please, let's not break him on his Premier League debut. I do not want him to... I mean, he's got Saidi in goal for Brighton. So there's an example of our previous Wonder Kid goalkeeper and how that turned out. So, I mean, to be fair, Saidi did have, 5 years here? 3 years as our first choice keeper. I think he was in goal when we won the Premier League for the first time. Saidi wasn't a disaster, and I think it's just the same issue we've got with Beckhardt, the same issue we've got with Powell, and there's actually nothing wrong with any of these goalkeepers. It's FM19. Goalkeepers are a bit rubbish, and I know people keep saying that to me, but my response is always, did you watch Non-League to Legend? Did you see the goalkeeper we had in that? Because goalkeepers don't always have to be rubbish. Zielinski was the best goalkeeper in the world. We had him at both Hamburg and Sevilla, and he was brilliant. So it is possible to have a... Why is Joksimovic taking a penalty? Why does Football Manager do this? If you don't have a designated penalty taker on the pitch, it just defaults to a fullback. It's done this since I was a kid, since the Championship Manager days. Just give it to the best penalty taker, which obviously isn't going to be the 19-year-old right-back playing his 5th game for the club. My word. Right, Mira. plays Augusto in. This is why we want Augusto and Mira able to combine on that left-hand side. Forces a save out of Saidi, and now we have a corner, and it's Flager to take. Flager crosses over towards Mira. It's nodded down to Augusto. Those two linking up a lot. Augusto to Mira again. Forces another save out of Saidi. Look at this. Saidi's making saves. He's going to be man of the match, isn't he? It's all these goalkeepers we've tried this season, all the goalkeeper problems we're having. Man of the match for the final game of the season is going to be Saidi playing for Brighton, who narrowly avoided relegation, probably because of how good he is. Look, he is the best player on the pitch at the moment, according to ratings, having made 2 very, very good saves in highlights, and presumably got up to more good goalkeepingness throughout the rest of that first half as well, as despite our 63% possession, we've not been able to score a goal yet. Augusto now plays it into Sloma. Sloma to Bogarski, to Mendes. Mendes sprays it out wide to Joksimovic, who crosses. Augusto is there and grabs his 6th goal of the season. An assist for Joksimovic. A goal coming in off the left wing for Augusto. There's a weird shadow on the pitch, which is awesome, but still a little bit weird. This is the kind of stadium we want. This looks like a bigger ground than in fact, to be honest, I've been to both the Amex and Stadium MK, and I think Stadium MK probably is bigger. I'm probably going to be told I'm wrong, but I feel like it probably is. But it looks more impressive in Football Manager. Certainly looks a lot bigger than the Amex I went to, whenever it was. Right, don't get complacent out there, boys and girls. I mean, it's full at 30,000, so officially the same size, I think, but I guess Stadium MK has more expansion capacity because it's got that whole top tier that they could put seats in at some point, but obviously in Football Manager they're not going to expand the ground for us. Milton Keynes are still down in League One, so I mean, in reality I think by now we'd have just bought the ground off them or paid to have it increased inside and just accepted that yes, we're a club based in Milton Keynes now, but we need a bigger ground. We can't win the Champions League ground sharing a 30,000 seat stadium. That's where our problem is. I'm going to blame it on that. Nothing to do with the players or the management. Right, Thor is going to come on along with Goff. That's a nice substitution to be able to make. Goff now to take the corner, floats it over towards Thor, who nods it across to Augusto, who probably should have done a little bit better there. Saidi's still the best player on the pitch right now, though, despite conceding a goal. He's having a good game. I know he saved a penalty, but he's been involved in everything for Brighton. He's been involved in everything. He's their goalkeeper. That shows how rubbish they've been. Should we give another debut to another centre-back? This one is Mehmet Genk, or Gents. We bought him from Strasbourg. He's another one like Babaru. We've got basically 3 or 4. Crawford and Stoyan are others as well. These are all reasons why we can sell Beron this summer, because we've got so many of these other defenders knocking about the place. But we'll get Genk on for his debut, as we did with the other one, Babaru, in the last match. Getting some debuts out there at centre back over the course of this episode. That's what you came to see today. Young centre-backs making Premier League debuts. And a goalkeeper who's kept a clean sheet on his Premier League debut. That's a good start. Well done, lads. A successful end to the season. And now we go into a summer transfer window different to any summer that we've ever had before. Is that prize money enough to sort out our... the Champions League problem has gone away. We still kind of need to fix that, or it's not that much of a big deal because it's not even points deduction, I don't think. Oh no, 5-point deduction. I thought it was just a fine. So we do still need... I mean, we're going to sell players anyway. It's going to be a fire sale in tomorrow's video, which is going to be fun. If you've enjoyed that, please make sure you leave a nice big thumbs up on there for me. Subscribe to the channel for daily Football Manager videos. And thank you very much for watching.